All right,
Miss
we are
Sandra,
recording
how are
now.
you?
So now we're recording, so everyone
I
must
am well.
behave.
Thank
Do you know
you.
everyone on the call?
I'm what? What did you say?
I said, do you know everyone on the call?
No, could you please go around and introduce
I would
yourselves?
introduce you for sure.
Yes.
But don't get any ideas. The man is married, so just forget about it. I know he's good looking, but
Darn.
I know. Let's see. All right, Tom.
Being recorded too. I shouldn't have done that.
It's a little late for that, huh?
Sooner or later, Mr. Cricket will come back. He has some things to offer the meeting. He's down here licking his foot right now. Mr. Cricket is a cat, in case you wondered.
Well, I didn't think you were having a cricket lick your foot, an actual cricket.
It's Pat.
Yay.
Hello, Pat.
Okay, English is representing.
Yay.
How are you, Mr. Pat?
Somebody just needs to go get Jack and tell him, all right, peer pressure, you got to join.
No way, this makes me look good. Don't tell Jack.
And we are telling everyone this is being recorded, so.
I'll watch my language.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can still talk bad about Jack.
Well, yeah, that's a given.
That's really why we're here, isn't it?
You know
Or
what?
Abby, we could talk bad about Abby.
If I'm not allowed to talk bad about Jack, there goes my whole pedagogy. That's my whole lit class approach.
Pat, how's the semester treating you so far?
Pretty well, thanks. So far, my gen ed classes are kind of hard to wake up, but other than that, nothing terrible.
I think that's in their fine print. Sleep until 11, even if you're in class.
Yeah, I think so. But no, I can't complain. I'm really happy.
Good. Glad to hear that.
Yeah. How about everybody else? Did anybody have any interesting spring break experiences?
No.
Yeah, I was in my office from Monday through Thursday.
Oh.
Yeah, working my way through it.
No, we had a report that had to be done last year, and so we had to finish it, and praise the Lord, we sent it in on Thursday at 3:32.
All right, well, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah,
That had to feel good. I hope.
No idea. It did feel good because it's due Thursday of this week. It's due the 1st.
Hey, I did early.
And it's a blessing.
I graded. I made a PowerPoint. I wrote a test. I read a little bit. That's about it. That was spring break.
I graded. I helped 2 students get ready for a conference. We presented on Friday. I spent much of the weekend doing the conference. Now,
Sandra, it's a very small group of us today. And so the fact that you're not sharing your lovely face
means that I'm no makeup and
and still gorgeous. So I don't know what the problem is.
Oh yeah, right.
We're company now, so I guess I can't harass you.
Rebecca, you are young and beautiful. So once you get to be my age, it's like no.
And the irony is that I think I'm at least 5 years older than you. That's the irony.
Yes, but you look like a dewy face 20-something.
We're recording this. Okay, good.
That's me. She meant me. She was looking at me.
I thought so. Risa, how are you?
Hi, Risa.
Good, thanks.
Hey,
how are you all doing?
Good to see you.
We're
I
misbehaving.
think your hair has grown out since the last time I saw you.
Yeah, it's gotten a little longer.
Yeah, very pretty long. I like it.
It was good.
Yeah, I haven't had a haircut in well over a year now. My hair hasn't been this long since high school.
Me neither.
Me
Look,
either.
Okay, Tom, you didn't mention mine here.
Look at mine. Mine is growing full and rampant.
Friday, and I'm so excited.
I did want to say I work from home on Tuesdays and I have my daughter with me, and if she gets really fussy, I might have to leave a little early.
No problem.
No, she's fine. You don't have to leave because of her. You just
We-
hit if she wants to talk a little bit more than you.
She's only 4 months old.
Oh, God.
Oh my goodness.
Hello,
Yeah, I think this is
beautiful.
definitely better than cat pictures for sure. Oh, she's precious. What's her name?
Zolia.
Dolia?
Yeah. So
Oh, great.
confession, every meeting I've been in since November, she's been on like here with me, but I just keep her quiet.
He's a pro.
She's adorable.
But she's a little fussy today, so if she gets super fussy, I might have to leave a little early. Just
It's all good. We're just
I
glad
understand.
you're
Thank
here.
you for sharing her with us. See, now that
hi, hi Jim. I just was telling everybody
moving.
I have my daughter with me today, so she could be, she's been a little fussy, so I might have to leave early.
And we're recording, so she's got this for posterity. So there you go.
Yes, indeed.
There she
Oh
goes.
my gosh. She is cute as a button.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I try.
Well, Tom, you're always
Oh.
very handsome, but the baby's cuter than you are. I'm sorry.
I can live with it.
Hi,
We got
Jim.
We've got enough folks here. I think we can get started. If you've never been to a Chew the Fat, we do, I think this is the fourth one. And what we try to do is come in, hang out, and feel free to munch on some lunch if you brought some. I already had mine. And like to be sort of sharing what we're doing, research and scholarship wise. We're not confined to that, but that's what this has always been before. So if you're working on something, this is an opportunity to talk about it, maybe ask for some feedback. We do this session, which is very informal, and then we're planning a more formal presentation of not only scholarship, but we're also going to change that to include some creative work. So we might get Mr. Jim to do some musical tidbits. If we can blackmail back to Bro, we'll get him to share something that he's working on. Maybe Pat will like to chip in at some point. Anybody who does some creative work, we want to provide an opportunity for that as well. But sometimes we've done the Chew the Fat and it's been 4 or 5 people. Sometimes we've done it and it's been a great big, like Walton's table full of people, 20 odd people. And it can be very entertaining. But what we've decided in the research committee is that we just want to commit to doing it. And we kind of promised each other, if we have a Chew the Fat session and only the committee shows up, we're still going to do it. Just so that people know that it's something we do ongoing, and they're welcome. Again, the idea is to share what you're working on, and if you've got some pretty good ideas, if it's going well, that's great. Let's hear about it and maybe offer some feedback. And if it's not going great, and you just want to talk about it to not only some fellow scholars, but people across our disciplines, then hopefully that'll be helpful. I know that I've been working on a creative project for the first time in many years. And about 5 minutes after we hired Pat Wensink, we had our own little Chew the Fat where I got to talk to him about it and say, what about this? Am I crazy? And he said, yes. And so that was the end of that one. But anyway, no.
I think you just volunteered to share your own creative work, didn't you?
No, I'm not there yet. So anyway, I'm going to turn the floor over to whoever would like to get us started and let us know what you're working on. And Abby,
That would be whomever, Dr. Bragg, but whatever.
not when I'm speaking. I'm
Oh,
from the
okay.
South, y'all.
So I was wondering, do any of you all have thoughts or ideas on how to get to international libraries if we're not allowed in. Like I've got my vaccine thing, I got my passport, and I'm like, oh, I'm really hoping we're gonna get to see libraries. So
Huh.
So are you asking like for libraries that have really, really good electronic repositories or?
any strategies you all like? I'm looking for texts that have not been digitized yet. And I'm wondering if anybody had oh yeah, some grad schools or getting grad students to help on projects, or I don't know. Just if any of you had ideas, or it's just nope, we've got nothing.
UT gives access to Tennessee professors, so that's something you should look into.
I got nothing.
Abigail, you're on mute, so if you're wanting us to-
Sorry. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, well, that's tenant UT.
Yeah, in Knoxville.
Thank you. UT. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
So yeah, that's where I'm at the, can you find a text? I've been trying for a year. Still can't get there.
What are you looking for, Abby?
I'm looking for minority fairy tales by marginalized writers that people either thought didn't exist because they were in novels or dramas or periodicals. Things that we hadn't looked at in fairy tale studies before. So they're usually in 19th century novels that have not been scanned and are only held in the Irish National Library or Jamaica National Library. And I'm trying to get it for a 4-volume critical edition. So I've got to scan the text, clean it up with Adobe. But right now I'm at the scan the text.
Gotcha. You know what? I would talk to Rachel Motes in the library, Motes. Do you know her? She's so wonderful. She's so helpful, and she's not technically the English librarian anymore, but she is still a wonderful go-to for questions like that, because she, you know, I mean, I just can't say enough good things about the things that she's ferreted out for me.
Agree.
Thank you. That's exactly what I need.
I have an odd book about Irish fairy tales that I bought when I was in Ireland from a writer who collected weird stories from people in Ireland that were folk tales that I can lend you.
Oh, that's really nice. Oh, thank you.
Where's your office?
My office is Avery 109.
And do you have like one of those door envelopes? I'll put it in there tomorrow.
Thank you so much. I will get it back to you. I will scan it right away and get it back to you.
No rush. No rush.
Abby, I don't know if I have anything like that, but when I was writing my dissertation in Gainesville at the University of Florida, the year I started to do research for it was the year that the library began a 2-year renovation. And so they closed the library the year that I started researching for my dissertation. This actually happened. But it was also right when the libraries started to digitize everything. Otherwise, I could not have written that at all. And so I was finding all this stuff through archive.org. Have you used archive.org?
I love them. They have turned up some stuff.
Yeah. And so I will look to see if, the thing is that when I found them, being a child of the 70s and 80s, you know, I don't trust that something online is not going to go away. So I kept it all. So I have tons of PDFs from all subjects because I was saving the stuff that had to do with my book, but I saved anything that looked interesting. So I may have some of that. I'll look, but you know, if you know archive.org, they're very searchable. They're a lot more searchable than they used to be. So That's may seem like a lame recommendation, but I would give them a shot.
Oh, they're wonderful.
Okay.
I love archive.org. Yes, thank you.
Anybody wanna share what you're working on?
I want to share something, and I don't. I'm not actually working on this yet, but I will be as of later this week. We have a first-year med student who wants to do her project. They are all required to do a research project during their 4 years, and her project, she wants to structure in a way that she interviews members of the African American community about the perceived or real reluctance to get COVID vaccines. And we're probably going to start with churches in the area, and I don't know much more about it than that, but I was just throwing that out there because it's a brand new kind of project for me. I've not approached it, a topic like this before. The closest I've come was working on palliative care and interviewing patients with another med student, which is obviously very different. So given the events of this past year and all of the social justice issues that are very much related to medicine, access to the vaccine, and I guess perceptions of the medical establishment, I just kind of wanted to throw it out there and see if anyone has any advice as we get going on this thing.
Sounds like a great interest piece for sure. And it's very relevant.
I think, this young lady is passionate about the topic, and she is not from this area. So I'm trepidatious, to say the least, for her. I want to protect her from anything that might be negatively, I don't know, from any kind of pitfalls that she may encounter in this endeavor. But she is passionate about it, and that's what she wants to do. And so one of the internists at DCOM asked me to help her from a narrative medicine approach to write some interview questions and get those IRB approved and all of that, which I will do. But I just don't know if anyone else had any suggestions about ways into this that I can advise.
Are you looking for a path for her to get in touch with the community?
Well, the idea of going to churches was Dr. Cope's, and I think that's a good idea. I think churches are a wonderful center of life for so many people in the community, and that it's a safe space, to ask these kinds of questions, I think.
I have no idea about this, but if the University of Tennessee has a BSU, Black Student Union, that would give, the problem is you're going to get a demographic that's pretty thin in the age range.
Okay. Yeah.
But,
I've considered that. I don't, for this student, this is a very white area that we live in, and in that way, I definitely want to make sure that that her mentor is good and strong beside her as she undertakes, you know, this project.
I've had,
She is herself an African American, and you know, she has some very definite ideas about the injustices perceived in the wider community, but it's her first year in Harrogate, Tennessee. So I just want to do my best. So anyway, if you think of anything or come across any resources, I would greatly appreciate the advice.
I'm just thinking out loud here, but I've had students in the research writing class that they really want to write about COVID. They like, you know, I have business topics in that class. They want to write about COVID. I have things about traditional versus online learning. They want to write about COVID. And what I keep telling them is that understand that, you know, COVID is unfolding. And if you look at those sources, you're looking mainly at news sources. But if you can contextualize and if you can think of what might comment on it without specifically commenting on COVID, then you can actually tap into some scholarly sources. So if it were a student asking me the same question or the same topic in a 102, I would say, you know, what can you find about reticence in those communities historically, without it necessarily having to do with this particular situation? So how can you historicize that reluctance? And that would be a way to get into a little bit broader research, but also more plentiful. And then maybe the project can be both what's happening right now, but also how this fits a pattern of a racial reluctance in the last who knows how many decades. That's just a
Yeah,
thought.
that's helpful, you know, and that may want, she may want that to be part of it. But of course, the medicine is, she's going to want the medicine to the currency of it to take precedence. And I think, you know, we'll have to rely on statistics from like the health department to see if there actually is a reluctance in this case. So this is why I said perceived or real. I don't know if there is reluctance.
I don't either.
I'm just sorry, I had to go do something. Are we still talking about the COVID amongst minorities? And so, yeah, there's a reluctance. I'm not speaking for all African Americans in America, but there's a reluctance. I talked to a friend of mine yesterday, and she was able to get the shot from the beginning because she's over 65. And she's like, no, still waiting, because I'm telling you, the only reason when Rebecca Brackman posted on Facebook that she was trying to get hers, and I couldn't give you any suggestions, Rebecca, because the only reason I got mine, and I believe wholeheartedly that God ordains things. So the only reason I got my shot was because I went to the health department to find out some information about getting the shot, maybe in August, October of 21, not even remotely anytime this time, because I needed to see a host of Black people get it and still live 6 months later. And so, but the lady literally said to me, well, since you're here, no, I had no intention of getting it. But I figured, I believed that if the Lord opened the door, then I'd be foolish not to step through it and get the shot. And if, like I heard one woman on the news say, I think they might have a box of shots for white people and a box of shots for Black people. And there's plenty of time that they could have recognized my skin color and gotten the Black box and tried to kill me with it. Trust me, these thoughts are out there. It's not far-fetched, because we have history to show that, hey, whites are not above using blacks for certain things.
Right, right.
So because that history is there, but then I also have several Black friends who have had the shot, are still doing okay. And so the little thought, but like I said, if the Lord hadn't opened that door, I would not be getting my second shot on Tuesday, on April 6th.
Wow.
And now that LMU is getting them to give to us, I'm like, yeah, they can't make me do it. But I promise you, I had no idea, no thoughts of doing it because of the history. But I also want to encourage other Blacks to get it because I'd rather err on the side of caution and be safe than hold on to my historical beliefs and still be in danger if the shot is going to be able to help at all.
And that's exactly the way she feels.
Hmm?
I'm sorry. That's exactly the way she feels.
Yeah, the only reason I posted it on Facebook was to show other Black friends that, hey, you know what? Basically, if we're gonna go down, let's go down together. Or if we're gonna live, let's live together. Let's do what we can to help this pandemic to be gone. And there'll be another pandemic and there'll be another issue, but right now there are still many, many Blacks who are very reluctant based on history.
So there you go. We have what's ongoing
Well, I may
right
be
now.
talking to you more across the hall.
Hey, that's why we were across the hall, sweetie.
I know, see? I'll even play some Christmas
Now
tunes.
you got me right.
So it would be interesting to see, was there the same reluctance for the flu epidemic? Was there the same reluctance for the polio epidemic, et cetera? Is there a historical pattern of perception of reluctance? There's at least that
would be a good
student could draw on.
That would be a good research project.
Thank
Mhm.
you. Thank you, you guys.
We don't have Charlie Hubbard with us to tell us, because he would be able to instantly tell us. Charlie Hubbard has been a boon in previous Chew the Fat sessions. But I don't know if he plays well with technology or not. I can't really tell.
He's been on several of the Zoom.
He is, yeah, you're right. Yeah, he's in the school
He made
meetings,
it
you're
too
right.
busy today, so. Rick, how are you?
I'm muted. I'm fine. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Been
My
enjoying
lawn
the
is now
session.
nice and mowed, thank the Lord, yay.
I'm
Rick
sorry.
and I showed up for
My
a new,
lawn, my lawn
new-
guy showed up.
I'm sorry, I'm not
Go
trying to
ahead,
talk
Tom.
over everyone. Rick and I showed up for a new student registration the other day, and our students didn't show up. And so we spent the hour chatting with each other, which was entertaining, as I recall.
I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Anyone else would like to share?
I'm nosy and I'm trying to figure out what that is behind Rick, that apparatus that looks like.
That's an inverter. I have a bad back, so my brother-in-law gave that to me. I hang upside down from that.
Yep, it looked painful. It looked like something that would be painful.
Doesn't hurt slightest unless you have sinuses clogged up like I do. Then suddenly you have like a 8-pound weight on your brain at that moment.
Ah,
Which
well, at
is
least it helps your back.
It helps my back.
That's good, okay.
I would like to share, but I don't have to share next. I just want to say I'd like to share.
No one
Go,
else is
girl.
fighting you. Please go.
I'm currently doing kind of a twofold research on rugs. So if anybody knows any good, interesting information about the history of rugs, symbolism in rugs, and specifically I'm looking into shag rugs. But I am also kind of trying to compare the 1960s ideology and counterculture with the way that the shag rug was represented then, and comparing the 60s to what's happening now and like what has changed. So it's also kind of a little bit political as well. And so any kind of research or any kind of information that you guys would think would be interesting within that, because what I'm making, for those of you who don't know me, I'm a visual artist, and I am making a new series of wall pieces that will be porcelain shag rug. So I use a tiny little extruder and I extrude clay out, and it looks hyper realistic like a shag rug, but it's porcelain. So that's my current work I'm working on, but I want to do a research project to back up kind of more about what I'm thinking in terms of like kind of the general idea is the idea of the ideals of the 60s, the sentiments of like radical change that people wanted just across the board kind of was frozen, and like it's never really reached anything. And you know, kind of like the idea of like the symbolism of the shag rug with that counterculture, and then also like how it's not changed, the symbolism of it kind of being hard now, the rug being hard and not like a soft thing. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about. So any thoughts, or if you hate it, totally tell me, because that would be good to know too.
I think it's fascinating. I think it sounds so cool.
Oh,
My first thought was, did she say rug as in carpet? Is that what she used?
Mhm.
That is so interesting. Wow.
Thank you. So
Wow.
that's my research
Yeah,
right now.
Toupees, maybe, that kind of rug.
That will be my next project. That's actually really funny.
I've done a little bit of research on that time as well, and I would be curious if you can see, like, I mean, there's no like start and stop point, but like technically a lot of people think that the hippie generation of that movement died when Charles Manson kind of and ruined all the innocence. So I'd be curious if like styles of rugs and style in general changed when Manson sort of entered the culture.
I'm having a lot of trouble finding real research on rugs in general. Like I can find historical like timeline about rugs, but anything specifically tied to that area and era, it's hard for me to find. But I haven't like delved super deep into rabbit holes of scholarly research. But I briefly have looked here and there. I just get so scatterbrained when I start researching and I go into all these wormholes, but I haven't really been able to find anything so specific that I'm looking for.
I can't remember if I am remembering this correctly. There's an Alice Walker story about the young Black woman who goes to college. She's the first member of the family to go to college, and she suddenly wants this very functional, and I'm remembering it as a rug.
Quilt.
Oh,
I
is it
think
a
I know
quilt?
I know the story you're talking about, Granny's quilt. Yeah, the story's from the point of view of the older sister who,
Yes.
like their mother is, you know, kind of farm working and
Yes. Okay.
yeah, it's a quilt. Sorry.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mm.
And the thing is, the
it was
woman
really-
who wants it, no, I'm sorry, it's from the point of view of the mom. So it's the mom and the other daughter, and then this daughter comes back, and she wants the quilt that Granny wanted to give to the other daughter. And she's like, well, she doesn't understand her culture. She doesn't appreciate it. And then the other daughter says to her mom, she can have it. I can make another one.
Right. Because she
she
wants it
actually
to hang
has
on the
the craft.
wall.
Yeah, whereas the other daughter actually has the craft, and
Okay.
the one who's now gone off and gotten, you know, the
Okay.
college education has no interest in learning how to quilt. As you said, she just wanted it on the wall. But
Display as a sort of marker.
yeah,
Uh-huh. And I guess a
I'm
quilt.
pretty sure it's a quilt.
A quilt serving as an image of text, as an image of history, is much more commonly found than a rug. But okay, I was misremembering that.
But it's good that you remembered it, because now it gives Risa a thought that, hey, an abstract piece of something can be utilized to have as an analogy or something to help with the political aspect of that time, the 60s. And so your remembering is a good thing. So thank you both.
I want to say that's early 70s. That's an early 70s piece. Is that not right, Rebecca? Do you remember the name? Everyday Work? every
Something
day,
work.
huh?
Yes, it is something work, isn't it?
Yeah. I'll find it. If
I've
that's-
taught it. I've taught
I
that
did
short
too.
story.
It's a great story.
Yeah.
I'll find it. Yeah, so anyway,
Everyday use.
Everyday use. Yeah.
Everyday use. Okay, I'll write that down.
Abby, you
Yeah.
taught it too, or you're good at Googling.
You stay
Thank
muted,
you.
girl. You're muted.
That was Googling. I read it. I had not taught it. But yeah, that is yeah.
it's one of those stories I recall that when you read it, and I find this is true with a lot of short stories, especially ones that are anthologized, when you read it, you're like, okay, I think I can make that work in the class. And then when you start talking about it in class and the discussion ball starts to get kicked around, you're like, oh, wow, this really is good. Because you start pulling things from them and then, you sort of teach yourself that text by teaching it. So
Risa, have you tried any like art or school design libraries like I don't know, RISD or New York School of Design or whatever? They have much greater holdings than of course we do on texts that might be helpful.
Sure, you know what? That's such an obvious idea that I know you're right. I did not think of that. Or like there's a few textile museums that might have some better research. I'm going to write that down. Thank you.
Or like she said,
that
in
actually-
New York, Parsons School of Design.
Mhm.
That actually reminded me, I just moved from Louisville, Kentucky, and there in Louisville, there's the Kentucky Museum of Art and Craft. They do a lot of textile craft based stuff, so you might be able to pick their brain, see if they have some leads.
Oh, that's
Thank
nice
you.
too. Yeah. I mean, there has to be material out there because I mean, rugs aren't the same as tapestry, but they're sort of in that same textile family. And
Mhm.
that's been going on for quite a while and is so rich with story and symbolism and whatnot. So surely there's something coming into this century or the last century.
Yeah. Thank you. And I don't know how when you make a lot of times when visual artists make art, they don't necessarily do a lot of that kind of research where it becomes like a research almost paper that goes along with it. And I might not share any of that actually with the work, and it might be a very much more open-ended sentiment because I also don't want to prescribe meaning on the work. I like people to get their own kind of thing from it. But any just general thoughts about that, like how much research behind visual work do you feel is enough or too much or not enough?
There's no way that I can answer that personally because I've never answered that for myself. Because I'll always either feel, all right, I'm stuck in the research, or all right, I didn't research enough. And then again, you're doing something, creative. But I think just generally, if you have enough of a feel of what a creation like that, a project like that can mean and has meant, if you have enough of that to inform what you're doing or inspire what you're doing, then that's going to be the right amount. As a non manual creative person myself, I'm only going to know it secondhand, third hand, short stories and poetry about such projects, which is why that Walker story leapt to my mind because, and of course I remembered it as a rug, but yeah, it is a quilt, and a quilt frequent figures as a kind of recording mechanism as well as an expressive mechanism. I think I think Anne Marie said it like an abstract symbol. But I said much more literary critical term. I used it, I said a marker, that the college student in that story wanted it not because she understood the craft, but wanted to hang it on a wall as a kind of marker, an emblem, a flag. And so, given your project, I think if you know enough to inspire and inform, then that's going to be enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all.
And that's why we're here now. You have people that you can bounce it off of, and you can give it to us, give us what you've found and what you've researched so far. And people like Rebecca Brackman will nitpick every little and say, I think you're missing 58 references, or I think 200 is good.
What I was just about to say is the pleasant part of your position, I'm assuming, is that when you submit this somewhere, you're not going to then get bounced back a reader's report with, and you need to cite this person and this person and this person and this person, and why haven't you talked about this person? So I assume that's less of a thing.
Nobody really wants to see the research.
Yeah,
they just want to see the the
You're
art.
You know what? I mean, thank you for asking that question the way you asked it, i.e. Is an intelligent question, but it was a brave question. It was brave in that it sounded timid. And that's really what we want to do. As I understand it, in the Chew the Fat is, I can promise you that once I'm dug into, again, to the research project that I vaguely remember working on sometime before COVID, and I start to feel lost or crazy, I promise you that we have a Chew the Fat session, I'm going to say, this is how I'm feeling. Am I lost? Am I crazy? And I that's the way I understood this session to be, to sort of share and get encouragement and get perspective.
That was definitely the plan when it was set up, for sure. And I am probably speaking for the entire committee when I said, don't think we'll have another one before this semester is out, but certainly we'll try to have at least 2 or 3 in the fall, in addition to the other program that we have scheduled. But clearly today proves that it's necessary and helpful to anyone who shows up, because in the beginning there were 3 of us on the call, I came on third, and so we were thinking, well, it's just us and we could still learn from each other, even if it's one of my favorite Bible texts is Matthew 18:20, where 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, he's there. So even if it's only 2 or 3 of us, we can accomplish something. But the fact that you all had questions and gained some answers, maybe not all of them, but gained some answers and some perspectives. So good job, well done.
We're going to do it. I mean, we resolved, just to have them. What are we going to resolve about the Chew the Fat sessions? Well, we're going to resolve that there will be continuing Chew the Fat sessions, and sometimes it's going to be Anne Marie and me, and that's it, but that's okay.
Okay.
So can I bounce something off the group?
Really?
Yes, Rick, if you were trying to say something, you were on mute. I'm sorry. Go for it, Rebecca.
I was waiting to see what Rick was doing. So I hope wrapping up a couple of projects and about to kind of set them aside for a while. And so I'm kind of deciding what I'm going to tackle next. And I am completely torn between 2 possibilities. One is to kind of keep going from some research that I did into the placebo effect phenomenon, and try to looked up what we know about it and how it works, and then take that understanding and look at medical texts from early medieval England and say, pretty much everything that maximizes the placebo effect is there. This stuff would have worked. So that's off and under submission somewhere. But I had so much fun doing that. I had a blast. So I'm kind of toying with.
That's awesome.
Well, see, Sandy, here's the thing. I've now run across this concept of narrative medicine, which the first time I had ever heard that phrase was when you applied here, because that's what you do. So would you feel I was pulling into your lane if I basically went out and said, all right, what's this narrative medicine all about then? And seeing if there was something in that would be cool and fun to research in early medieval England?
Of course not. I mean, pull into my lane. Let's go down this road together. It's a huge and growing field, and it's it's magical to me.
And I don't see a lot of it in medieval studies yet. Maybe I just don't know where to look. I mean, like I said, I haven't even started seeing if other people are already doing all this stuff.
I don't know either, because that's not my realm. but I'd be happy if there's anything I can do to help you with that kind of, with the narrative medicine side of things. I would be thrilled to, and maybe we can I've been working with you a lot longer, and we still haven't done lunch. So
I know we have totally orthogonal. Like, one of us always has office hours of class at the only time
I know
that the other person has to get lunch. And the other thing I'm toying with, and this is completely crazy and may not even work, is sort of looking at modern true crime narratives. This whole phenomenon of podcasts and Netflix documentaries and movies and books and magazines, and kind of considering what that kind of discourse does now, because I know there's people looking at that.
Definitely. I heard it on NPR a couple months ago. They have a whole thing.
Yeah. Why do we tell each other murder stories? Kind of what cultural work does this do?
And how does it affect men differently than women? And it's just the whole,
And then take some of those observations, ideas, and anachronistically in this case, take the concept of true crime back into the Middle Ages and Renaissance and pick out murder narratives that actually do fall into that pattern and share some of the same concerns. And my first kind of, hey, wait a minute on this was, there are two works that were really foundation to writing about place history in the English Renaissance. William Lambarde's Perambulation of Kent and William Dugdale's Antiquities of Warwickshire. And they both tell murder stories. Lambarde's very brief. Dugdale loves him some true crime. If somebody killed somebody in this town at any point in history, he's going to tell you about it. And I was listening to the My Favorite Murder podcast, which I enjoy, and one of the features is tell us your hometown murder. It's like, what's the relationship between true crime and place writing? And is anybody doing that? And then I got to think about the other stuff, the gender relationship. Saints' lives. There are a bunch of saints' lives that could be true crime narrative. What shakes out when we look at them from that perspective rather than the perspective of other hagiography? And I don't know, it may be nothing. But so anyway, those are my two projects that I don't know which way I'm jumping next.
Rebecca, that can go in lots of different directions. Whenever I bring murder mysteries into class, first of all, the students love it. But we talk about how, this is cricket, you guys. We talk about how essentially conservative and reassuring murder mysteries are, because you see a hole put in the social order, the social fabric, and then you see somebody come along and repair it. And that is the way that a lot of true crime works. True crime is a guilty pleasure of mine. And I can tell you, well, my wife can tell you how bummed out I am when we watch a true crime that remains unsolved.
Oh yeah, and some people, that's their favorite, right?
Oh, I
They
know.
love the unsolved ones. And yeah,
Well,
I'm
yeah.
with you. It's like,
Yeah.
no,
So there
don't
is,
tell me about Zodiac because I don't know who it is.
yeah. So there's a, well, that one's an exception. I love that one. But if you're watching one, you know nothing about it and you get gripped by the narrative, you want to see the hole plugged. Because if it's, and nobody ever found this killer, that serves a different purpose, and it feeds us with different emotions. So there's stuff written about that. That's one possible angle. But in other words, that this could have a constructive or a conservative or reassuring purpose to see that the justice actually wins. Okay. And the other idea here would be that I have immediately is balladry, because balladry is what actually catches a lot of that local murder mystery. Because, you know, in the same way that we have sort of gawkers and onlookers and tabloids feeding off of local criminal cases, you know, they would write ballads for execution day. They would write ballads to sell, and that would be somebody's memento or souvenir of not only that execution, but of that crime and place. Crime and place, you know, instead of time and place. There you go. I just gave you a nice title idea. But yeah, there's several ways into that. And then there's that, Sandra, who is that Lucy, the presenter on BBC?
Oh, I forget.
Lucy Worsley?
Worsley, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. She has a book about murder becoming a sort of popular pastime and obsession in England. And I want to say it begins, of course, later than you, but there's a
Is this the Victorian invention of murder?
No.
How the Victorians invented murder? Okay, because that's also on my bookshelf. I do not let myself even start reading until I have finished filling out the bibliography of my current book manuscript, which I really, really need to do.
No, this is Lucy Worsley, and I'll find out the name of it. But
thanks.
The thing is that it reads, it's for a popular audience. All of hers are, but what that ends up meaning is that a lot of scholarly things and good ideas, theoretical ideas, are blended in, really easy to take.
And I've seen that in some of the stuff I have read, but like I said, I'm not sure how new a lot of this stuff really is. I mean, I have taught a play, Arden of Faversham. There's an act in it. Maybe Shakespeare wrote it, maybe he didn't. We don't know. But I mean, it's early 17th century. It is the Renaissance dramatic equivalent of a Lifetime TV movie, you know, based on a true story. Of you know, Alice Arden murdering her husband in Faversham in Kent. So it's there. I mean, it is. A lot of it really does work back, but with the differences that because it is a different culture, it is doing different cultural work. Different crimes are unthinkable, right? We gravitate towards the unthinkable crimes, and they're not the same.
Barry Unsworth talks about this in his novel Morality Play in the 90s, where he has the traveling players who are used to playing the same stories of creation and the fall, etc. But somebody in the town has been murdered. And so they hit upon this radical idea, 14th century, of enacting the local murder. And by so doing it, they end up figuring out who did it. And,
oh, wow.
And Morality Play, it's a novel from the 90s. It's like 200 pages and absolutely riveting. And it has so much good theoretical stuff in it. But it's one of those beauties because I can teach it to the most advanced lit students or newbies because there's something there. But it speaks to that idea of we're not supposed to be telling this story. God didn't give us this story, or he would have given us the solution to this story. you know, but then there's also, yeah, but this is what's on everyone's mind in this town. So, yeah, I'm not helping you because I'm just giving you fun stuff to read instead of necessarily helping you answer the question, but.
I might even pitch this at a popular audience. I don't know. Like I said, I really don't know where, if I do this one, I don't know where it will end up.
Okay.
Too
Other than I
cool.
will have an excuse to read a whole bunch of true crime stuff.
Amen. I'm all
And
for
Tom wants to be your research assistant.
it.
You're hired.
Rick, you are not playing well. You are not checking the chat. There have been several chats sent to you. So now I'm just going to ask you, what on earth are you drinking? And you're on mute, by the way.
To quote Data from Star Trek, it is green.
Mm.
I thought that was actually originally Scotty.
Scotty, you're right. And Data used that. You're right. I should know that. Beth makes a thing with spinach and frozen
And dilithium
blueberries.
crystals, apparently.
I'm sorry?
And dilithium crystals.
It makes me go faster, yes.
The weight of nerds in this conference, the nerd quotient.
That's why we got the best building on campus. But it's spinach, blueberry, strawberries, and some protein mix.
Well, there you go.
That's so healthy. I can't stand it.
Yeah, I know, right?
Banana and almond milk. Beth wanted me to let you know the rest of the recipe.
Okay, yeah.
Got rum.
And rum, you said?
You forgot rum.
Remember, we're being recorded, Tom.
I have to teach in an hour and a half, so only one shot of rum.
Oh.
No rum, no rum. We want you bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for our students.
Exactly.
Well, we go from 12:15 to 1:15. I'm looking at the clock and we've got 1:09. Don't know about you. I have a student meeting at 1:30. So we have got 4 or 5 more minutes. Would anyone else like to share a thought? Keep it clean.
Thank you for keeping it clean.
Look at this.
He's
He's
very
claimed you. Mr. Jealous.
He's pretending that he's well behaved.
Yeah, don't be fooled.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm always willing to share what I'm working on, but it's one of my problems with scholarship lately, meaning the last 2 years, is that it can feel to me like everything that I've worked on is so so exclusive. Is not exclusive is not the word. Esoteric, maybe, is so specialized, is in such a tiny little room that I don't know why I ever bothered to do it. And so the reason to be is not clear to me. I've always got something that I'm supposed to be working on, I'll put it that way. And so at any moment I can always stop or get things going in a chew the fat session and tell you what I'm working on. But usually everyone else is doing something more interesting. So.
Well, I had the opposite thought, Tom. Well, no, I had a similar thought in that, wow, I'm hearing all these creative people and I'm thinking, wow, I wish I had that capability, but I have no creative bone. Or if I had it, it's gone somewhere. But I'm thinking social work, how does social work fit into all of this? But what I'm hearing is just so wonderful. And I'm thinking, I think I need to get in there somewhere, but I don't have, yeah, like I said, the creativity bone is not in me, but you all are doing some wonderful, wonderful things. And I hope you all create, continue to create and do what you do best. So I appreciate all that you all have shared.
I'm having
me
a
too.
problem. I'm sorry.
I just said me too.
I was having a problem with micromanaging myself. I've talked to Patrick, who's a huge help. I want to take a creative nonfiction approach to looking at how America got to where we are today. It started back when we got rid of the Fairness Doctrine, led us to everybody having their own media, and people can't talk to each other if they disagree. And I have the idea of the structure, but I have the idea of what I'm going to write, but how to write it, make it a series of short essays, do a narrative. So starting is always a hard part for me of any work, creative or academic, and this is a combination of both. But I just see a connection between 1980, when Ronald Reagan led to a deregulatory pattern that spread to broadcasting, where Fairness Doctrine got eliminated, and where we are today, where there's no fairness and the media are categorically disrespected by most people. So starting points are a hard part. I don't know how to get over that hump of where to stop micromanaging myself and say, just do it.
Well, just do it. Let's help you on, just do it. But it depends on who you're talking to when we say the media is being disrespected, because depending on the subject, the media is bogarting and not being fair at all to many populations. And so when you say they're being disrespected, it might be rightly so because of what they are publishing, airing, showing, whatever the case may be. So like the trial happening this week in Minnesota, you know, I heard one person say, I can't even watch it. It's like watching 9/11 over and over again. You won't be able to watch it. And if you are watching that trial, I haven't even turned it on, because to see that over and over and over again is just not going to be something to handle well. So disrespecting the media, depending on who you ask sometimes.
And the source. I mean, I like what, you know, I listen to NPR, Reuters, BBC.
Live for
Then
NPR.
I watch how CNN and Fox cover stories. CNN's covering the trial, and Fox at the meantime was covering why Democrats want to get rid of tax cuts, which is another legitimate discussion, but not, to me, quite as important. And then I look internationally, how we ignore stories such as Myanmar, where they're slaughtering their own people. They're at 500, and it gets no attention in media, in American media.
And it should, for sure. I know NPR is covering it, but yeah, we're not seeing it anywhere.
Yeah, and I walk the streets where it's happening, so it's affecting friends of mine. So I have a personal thing, but I still think it's more of a story than America gives it any credit for.
Right.
Rick, it comes down to what anyone might mean when they say the media, because there is no the media. And even when arguably there was, we understood it as a mixed blessing. Just think of it this way. Think of it as in a pop culture sense. If you look at movies, for instance, from the 30s through the 80s, the reporter was a hero. You know, the reporter was somebody who asked hard questions and investigated, and sometimes when they took an investigation so far, they literally turned into a hero, you know, a Clark Kent, a Peter Parker. But we even had serious narratives like All the President's Men, where the reporters were the heroes. Since that time, you're talking about the 80s, media has fragmented into so many styles. And I was a journalism student originally at that time. And I remember sensing that in the classes. What exactly are we supposed to be doing, you know? Because we still had, McNeil Lehrer on, whom everyone respected. But then we had, Donahue, for instance, who used to be this in-your-face interviewer and was becoming a guy who walked in with a man's skirt on, or had lesbian Nazis on that episode, and started to become that tabloid sensationalist. And
then
so
Geraldo.
yeah. And so we had that.
We all cheered when Geraldo got hit in the face with a chair.
More than once.
Yeah.
As far as the writing goes, I'm not. When you say micromanaging yourself, do you mean you feel like you have to start at the beginning, because I never start anything at the beginning. Just right the middle. If I sit down to write an introduction, I freeze. So I'll put in, you know, whatever I need to get my fingers moving, even if it's completely vacuous, or I don't even try. I just say, okay, this is how the first substantial body paragraph is going to look. And then I pull that together, and then eventually I'll get some idea for a hook or where to go. But I mean, don't feel like you have to start at the beginning. If you don't know how to work your way into it, don't work your way into it. Just jump into it and then figure out the path in later.
Totally agree with that.
That makes perfect sense, especially since it's historical and I'm writing about a series of events. I could write about event number 4 in the
Mhm.
series.
What do you know how to write about right now? You know, because maybe nothing's burning a hole in you to, oh, I've got to write about this. But what do you know enough to write about right now? Write about that, and it will find its place. I mean, Rebecca's totally, I couldn't agree with that more. And I'll end up writing the 4th part of 5 first, you know. So anyway, I'm gonna need to stop you guys, and I don't know if I leave, will it stop everything? It will? Can't hear you, Anne Marie.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, I just realized I was doing what I was telling everyone else. We can wrap up, and so that, because you have to go, but thank you all. Thank you, Tom, for facilitating, and thank you all for coming, and great to have you. And we'll see you around campus, and if nothing else, we'll see you in the fall, and we will have more chats. So
I wish you all the best of luck, and it's wonderful to see you as well as hear you. So,
yes, thank you all.
Thank you.
bless
Bye,
you. And
y'all.
Good day.
Bye-bye.
Miss you.
Likewise.